Good morning. We're going to start in about 1 minute, so if everyone could start getting in their seats so we can get started promptly and keep everything on schedule this morning. And then we'll get rolling today. Okay. All right. I think we'll get ready to get started. Good morning, everybody. I am Don Rosen. I'm the Director of Records Management, Oversight, and Reporting in the Office of Chief Records Officer, and happy to welcome you to our first BRIDG meeting of 2017, and on this beautiful fall morning, so we're happy you all could be here. Hope you're able to join us at the 9 o'clock meet and greet this morning for coffee and informal networking with your colleagues and other NARA staff. If you're unable to make it, please make sure you attend our next one and our next December BRIDG meeting. We think that's a great way for you to meet other colleagues and share experiences, so we encourage you to come to our morning networking sessions. So we do have a great agenda this morning, but before we do, I do have a few administrative items I wanted to discuss. One, after this meeting, at 1 o'clock in the Jefferson Room, appraisal teams 2 and 4 are co-hosting a meet and greet session for agencies on their teams. There will be representatives from other NARA units, and your FRC account representative will be in attendance. So if you have any questions or you just wish to get acquainted, so again, that'll be at 1 o'clock in the Jefferson Room. Also, a special event I wanted to call to your attention if you are not familiar with it. On November 7th, the National Security Agency / Central Security Services and NARA are presenting on NSA's implementation of a capstone approach with focus on policy development and approval of NSA's Form NA1005. That meeting's to be held right here in McGowan, and registration, though, is required. So our very own Sean Curry is the point of contact for registration, and his email is sean.curry@nara.gov. So again, that event is on November 7th, right here in McGowan, on capstone implementation, so we encourage you to attend. If you're interested, if you've not signed up, there are still slots available, and that is on November 7th. November 7th, and that'll be at... November, it's on the 17th? I'm sorry, November 7th. Maggie's at the 17th? I believe you're right, November 17th. Thank you for the correction. Okay. So that'll be November 17th. Again, if you're interested in registering, sean.curry@nara.gov. So, mark that on your calendars.
Yes, it's the 17th.
Okay, confirmed, it is the 17th. Okay. A couple other things. This is our calendar for our BRIDG meetings for the fiscal year coming up. As you can see, our next one will be February 14th.
We have a December one.
We have a December one, and then those are the ones beyond that. So go ahead and look ahead to that. If you have any questions, we are broadcasting this via our YouTube channel, or you can also send questions to rm.communications@nara.gov, and Shannon here is monitoring that. So if there's any questions come in, I'd also ask if you have any questions or comments during the program, please remember to identify yourself by name and agency before speaking, and also please wait for the microphone so we can make sure everyone can hear you. So some of the ground rules we're going to follow for today. So our program, first, yours truly, I'm along with Evangela Wimbush-Jeffrey. We're going to talk a little bit about our Records Management Oversight and Reporting Program, give you some updates of what we're doing this year. And then John McElvoy is going to talk about some Arcus updates. And then Gary Raufus, our Director of Records Management Training, is going to give a program update. And finally, Matt Itzen is going to talk about ERA and the 2017 annual move. So we have a really good agenda this morning, and we're glad you're all here. So with that, let's get started. And I happen to also be doing double duty, so I am first up. And what I wanted to do this morning was to give a little bit of updates on where we are with the Records Management Oversight and Reporting Program. The last time I presented, one of the things I talked about was we were continuing to build out our Oversight and Reporting Program, adding new staff, building it out. Ultimately, our goal was to have 3 teams, 2 oversight teams, and 1 team that's focused on systems. So we're happy to say we have 2 teams in place. We have we call our Oversight Team 1 that's led by Cindy Smolovic out of our office in Fort Worth, and many of you know Cindy from the RMSA and other activities. And our second team, we call our Oversight Team 2, is led by Evangela Wimbush-Jeffrey, who's right down here in the front row. So if those who don't know Evangela, please say hello. And her team and some of her staff is here as well. And I should also point out that we have staff not only here in the College Park, Washington area, but all across the country. We have staff in Denver, Fort Worth, Atlanta, St. Louis, helping us as we do oversight and reporting activities. And one of the big initiatives also for this year is to build out what we call our systems team that allow us to go out to agencies and do system audits. So we're actively working on to staff up that program. So the big thing I want to talk about is, first is reporting for 2016. We've already been getting a lot of questions about when is the reporting deadline. So I'm going to announce that right now. So drum roll, please. It's going to be January 9th through March 17th of next year, giving you a little later than the past. A couple reasons why we're moving it to the beginning of the second quarter. One, we wanted to move beyond the M1218 email deadline, give you a chance to move past that to 2016 deadline. Also, we know with the administration change, a lot of activities going on for everybody. And we also have an SAO meeting in December. We're going to be talking about reporting, so we thought we would move it to early January. I think that will be hopefully be a better time frame for everybody. So this is our planned time frame right after coming back from the holidays, and then we'll go in and give you a good 2 months to get the reporting done. So that is our reporting period for our activities. And what are we going to be asking this year? And I'm going to talk about each one a little bit. Again, we'll be doing the senior agency official report, as we've done in the past. Second, we will be doing the records management self-assessment, as we have done for the last 6 years now, almost 7. And then finally, one new reporting activity will be a federal email management report, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So the first one I'll mention is the SAO report. Everyone hopefully is familiar with that. It's going to look very similar to what it has in the past. We're going to talk about, again, the M1218 goals and targets, focusing obviously on the 2016 email and also on the 2019 goal. There'll be a couple other questions in there related to A130. Again, as we've done in the past, we will post them on our website when we'll be sending out templates in Word and PDF formats ahead of time. We're still in the process of finalizing a lot of these reports, getting them through senior management, but this is generally where we think will be in them. And we'll, of course, share it prior. I'll probably take the December BRIDG meeting as another opportunity to probably show you the template and walk through it in greater detail. Right now, I just want to give you a heads up of where we're going. So that's the SAO report. Again, we're going to be posting them on our websites. Last year, this is what it looked like. Those reports are all up there. We thought that worked out really well. We got a lot of good feedback on that. They're all up there now. If you want to see what other agencies were doing, working towards these directive goals, that's all available to you. And that's the link where it is on our site. The other report, which this is the new one, which right now we're calling our email management report. So as everybody knows, the email deadline, the directive, is fast approaching. It's hard to believe. It's been 4 years since that directive came out in August of 2012, where we said by December 31st, 2016, agencies need to be managing all email electronically. So as we've been saying, I think I mentioned at the last couple meetings that we're going to be asking questions about that. We're doing a separate data call using our success criteria. So we are working on finalizing this template. We'll be asking you questions related to how you met the goal. It's going to look very similar to some of the questions that are in the success criteria mapping. Did you meet, do you have systems in place? Do you have access, as you be able to access the email, a disposition, and policies? Do you have those 4 things in place? Essentially, we'll be asking those questions. And then we're going to take the information as well and also post those to our website. So we're in the process of finalizing that template. We're looking at potentially doing a maturity model type scoring for that. So what we'll probably do is we'll take a deeper dive into that once we get it all finalized, maybe do a webinar, a separate session. So we'll make sure that everyone's fully aware of what this template will look like and how to use it. We'll likely use our Qualtrics tool that we've used for the RMSA in the past, so it should look familiar. But we do want to be able to kind of pull out and show how agencies were meeting the 2016 email goal. Finally, the records management self-assessment, again, we will be doing again this year. It'll be very similar to last year. Again, we'll use Qualtrics. Who will be doing it? Again, agency records officers and the RMSA respondent, whoever you designate. Focal points, again, will be very similar to last year. We'll always try to keep the core questions consistent. We might have a few follow-up questions on oversight, disposition, electronic records. There will likely be some new unscored questions in there as well. We're looking at adding metadata, for example, might be a topic we ask on this year if we put some new policies out. And we'll publish it as soon as we get it completed. This past year, we actually got the RMSA out. This is the quickest we ever did. We got it over the summer. We again try to be pretty aggressive in getting it out as quickly as we can so it doesn't become a lagging indicator for us. So, and the one thing I should point out, which we're really proud of, is that we have 100% compliance last year at the RMSA for the first time, and we're really hoping we get 100% again. So we're looking forward to seeing that. If you want to see any of the RMSAs from the past, since we started doing them in 2009, they're all available for you online. So again, so those will be the three areas we're going to be focused on for reporting. SAO reports, which will be going to all the SAOs. The email management report, which will go to all records officers, the same group that receives the RMSA and the RMSA itself. So those are going to be the three reporting areas we're planning right now. Again, we'll take a little deeper dive into each of those, likely of the December bridge, so everyone is well aware what's coming, but I want everyone to have a heads up of what we're thinking, know the reporting period so you can prepare accordingly. What we will need from you, as you know in the past, our team is really good about getting out, contacting you in case you have any changes. So if you have any changes to wish to contact, here's our email address, rmselfassessment@nara.gov. So if you have any changes, let us know. We try to do a really good job of tracking that database to make sure we have the right information. And the same with your SEO reports. If you need to make any changes to that contact information, send that to prmd@nara.gov. It's really important that we keep those lists up to date so we know who to send the templates to. So again, if you have any questions, you can certainly send it to either one of these mailboxes and we'll get back to you. Our staff is here and ready to help you as you go through the reporting period. Just quickly want to touch on some other activities we're doing in our program. We are continuing to do records management inspections. It's a part of our program, especially as we expand and add more staff. We want to do more of them, do them in different ways. We do them based on what's in our regs, CFR 1239. It's part of our role to do that. And one of the things we like to do when we do inspections to identify challenges, recommend solutions, where do we see best practices. We feel that when we do inspections of agencies, hopefully it helps the agency itself, but others at other agencies as well. We also monitor improvements and progress. When we do an inspection, agencies get a plan of corrective action, and we monitor that as well. We've been doing 3 to 4 a year based on our staffing. We're looking to increase that number as we bring on more staff. We'll continue to do that. We do make them available on our website, so if you've not seen what an inspection report looks like, they are on our website. This is our website page right here, so I encourage you to go there and take a look at them. And one of the things I am planning to do sometime in one of the FY17 bridge meetings is potentially bring some of the agencies that have gone through the inspection process to share some of their lessons learned and experiences, and that's something we're looking to do sometime on FY17, so you can get a little better insight into what an agency experiences when they go through the inspection process, what the lessons learned are, those types of things. So we have that on the horizon as well as we build out our program. Another area I want to talk about that as we continue to build our oversight and reporting program is we're trying to consolidate some of the other reporting activities, and one of them is unauthorized disposition reporting. Right now, a lot of you have been working with the appraisal archivist when you've had that happens. It does happen occasionally. So we're working to bring that into our program, into the oversight program, taking responsibility, and Evangela and her team have taken the lead on doing that. And I'll just kind of quickly go through some of the things with that. Of course, what is unauthorized disposition? That's the unlawful or accidental removal, defacing, alteration, or destruction of records. So if you have experienced that at your agency that does happen, there is a process for notifying us at NARA, and per the regs, and it's laid out in 1230, you need to notify us. And you need to notify us either verbally or in writing. And if you notify us in writing, here's where it's supposed to go, Office of Chief Records Officer. And this is our address. We are also working on streamlining some of those operations. We're looking at potentially doing a form, an email address, and some of that's all going to be coming, and we'll share that as we build that and finalize those tools. So updates report. So as I mentioned, that unauthorized work has been transferred over to our oversight program from the appraisal archivist that started October 1st. And Evangela and our team have done a great job reaching out to those agencies, taking over some of the ones that were still in process, and they're working with those records officers. We're actually also working on a standard form for submission in addition to having our central email address, so you make it a little bit easier to submit, but those are not finalized yet, but once they are, we'll share them either through our AC communications or potentially at another BRIDG meeting. What will remain the same, agencies, you'll continue to receive a status report from their appraisal archivist on a monthly basis, so we're working, that will stay the same. And agencies will receive formal correspondence from the chief records officer regarding the status of the case. So practically for agencies itself, nothing necessarily is major changing other than we're just trying to make the process a little more streamlined, having a central place for them. So hopefully that'll be work out really well. And if you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out to Evangela and her staff, myself. We're here to answer any questions about that. And these are our contact information. Feel free to contact or email us or call me at any time with any questions about any of our reporting activities. We're here to help. And with that, I'm here to answer any questions. Evangela is here as well if you have any questions about unauthorized or the reporting deadlines. It's like Rich is going to be, Noble will be the first one up.
Rich, Noble, Nora. I think Angela's numbers, isn't Angela's number supposed to be 837?
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
Yes, we will correct that. Thank you. Evangela's number should be 837-0730. Thank you, Rich. Otherwise, all come to me. Other questions we can answer about reporting or what we're planning to do? Are there any questions via the chat, Shannon? There is not. Okay, well, so hopefully everyone then is clear about what we're doing with reporting and the reporting period. And again, just make sure that you have all your contact information up to date. I think that's the most important thing for you. And then we'll take a deeper dive into the templates once we got them finalized so you know exactly what we need to fill those out. And I'll just take one more scan around the room for any questions before we move on to the next presenter. Okay. Thank you. So we'll go on to next, and that's going to be on Arcus updates, and I'm going to welcome up to the podium John McElvoy. So let's everyone welcome up John.
Good morning. We're going to have some fun today. As most of you know, I really enjoy the customer service aspect of my job, so I really enjoy coming down to BRIDG and doing the meet and greet with you before we start the actual presentation. I do think we need to improve our food game up there, though. Maybe that'll bring more people in droves. Now, Don, before I stepped up here, said that I could take as long as I want today. So I thought instead of doing my presentation, I thought maybe I'll revert back to the old 4-hour training session. What do you think? Good idea? No? Okay. All right. Well, it is good to be here. So I want to talk to you about the year of deployments. We had a record year. We deployed 51 agencies. That's a record. We're up to 123 agencies using Arcus 2.0 now. So thank you very much for signing up for Arcus this year. However, still 52 agencies out there that haven't bitten the bullet and stepped over the line and stood up. And I think a lot of people in this room will attest to the fact that it's a relatively easy process. And of the 52 agencies that still have not deployed, those are categorized, as we call them, level 1 agencies. They're very small agencies, one record group, one charge account. Probably all of your holdings are unclassified standard storage, and perhaps you have holdings in 2 or 3 record centers. Not that much to go on in terms of access control. So it's very, very easy for you to get deployed. All I really need is the name and email address of your super administrators, and I can get you fired up on this thing in about a week. Now, another aspect of this, and I think that there almost everybody in this room is, who's watched the Arcus training videos? Show of hands. Quite a few. Great. I think for those in the audience who've not yet deployed Arcus 2.0, that the group that just raised their hands will attest to the fact that there is absolutely nothing finer than spending a nice, cozy Friday night with a fire in the fireplace and a bucket of popcorn and firing up the Arcus training videos and enjoying 2.5 hours of me talking about Arcus. Wouldn't you agree? Good stuff. Okay, so anyway, so we really need to get the rest of the agencies on board. So, and the next topic that might be a little bit of a cattle prod for you is the surcharges. I spoke about the surcharges, I think, back in April, and indicated that the surcharges, a nominal fee for the non-portal submission of a reference request or a records transfer would come about on October 1st of FY17. Well, we decided to push that back a couple more months, so now it's going to go into effect on January 1st. That's the new plan. So again, for those of you that have deployed, that's great. Your next move is to declare that you are portal only, and the best bet to do that is to contact me. We agree on a date that you will go portal only, and we can subdivide your portal onlyness by record group if you want, by reference requests only or records transfers only. I can customize this just about any way you would like. All I need from you is a date that you want to do this, how you want to do it, and to whom the record centers should respond if they get a rogue OF11 or a rogue records transfer or SF135, so we know who to send it on to so they can get that person set up with an account in Arcus and they can do it online. For those of you that haven't deployed, the surcharges are coming. You need to get deployed first before you can go portal only. And then we'll start actually moving into the electronic age. And then I can finally say goodbye to doing deployments. And now I can just administer to the super administrators. So again, very easy. Beat the rush. Contact me. Best way to reach me is via email. I have a question. All right. Yeah. Gordon, where's Gordon? Is Gordon here? Gordon. The question was, do we have the charges available for publishing just yet?
Yeah, I can answer that. They are available, and I can email them to you after. But for the SF135s, if it's keyed in by somebody at the FRC, it'll be $7.50, and that'll be billed under AY. And for a reference request, again, if they key it in the FRC, it'll be code RY, and that's $3.75.
Another question? Just clarification, surcharge for submission of a records transfer or a reference. I'm sorry. The question is just exactly what are the surcharges for? And the answer is it's for the non-portal submission of an SF135 or a reference request. So if you fax in an OF11 or if you type up an SF135 and you attach it to an email and send it to the record center where you intend to send the boxes. Those are activities that will incur the surcharge, because both of those things can be done in the Arcus via the Arcus customer portal. Now, some of you might be asking, and this is part of the presentation today, is well, what about multi-volume reference requests? What if I have a file that's like 6 parts in a box? I know that you're putting a reference request for each one of those files so that we have individual tracking for each file component as it leaves the security of the warehouse. Not to worry, if you submit that request for a file via the Arcus customer portal and we have to go in and key the additional reference requests for those additional files, there's no surcharge for those, okay? But pretty soon, you're going to see something that I think you'll like, multi-volume reference requests. But first, the major portal announcements and enhancements for FY17. Sorry, no reports yet. I'm working on it. I promise, by the time I retire, somehow, some way, I'm going to convince people that we can get reports through the customer portal for you, because I know that that would be a big help for all of our agencies. But for now, and I think you're really going to like this, and I talked a little bit about it in April, and there will be more information coming in December. We have the Communications and Disposal Modules, or CMDM for short. This is where you're going to be able to approve or decline disposal, not accessioning, disposal activity via the customer portal. Of course, you have to be on board with Arcus 2.0. There's another incentive to get deployed. But with that, and we're going to start off slowly, is the communications module. So when we create disposal actions in the and send them to you via the customer portal, you're also going to get a follow-up email that says, hello, you have disposal notifications in the customer portal that you need to attend to. There will be other status changes that will also generate emails. A lot of you have been requesting that for a long, long time. Later on, we hope to roll that out so that when a record center approves a transfer that you've submitted through the portal, bang, you'll get an email that says, hey, we approved your transfer, here's the transfer number, finish up packing the boxes and contact the record center so you can get them sent off to the facility. One of the other nice things about CMDM is you can do it one by one or in lots. I believe the criteria to create a set or a lot of disposition notifications in the portal is record group, of course, security classification, disposition authority, and I think there's one more in there. But what that can do then is it creates a lot of similar disposal notifications for you so that if you want to, you could take a cursory look at all of them, click approve the lot, and boom, you've just knocked out 50 disposal notifications all at once. Or you can go through and do it one by one, up to you. The second portal enhancement that's coming this year, it's actually ready to go. I just need to record the training video for it, and then we'll get it released to the masses, is multi-volume reference requests. And for all those years that I was going out around the DC area and other parts of the country doing my famous 4-hour road show of Arcus training, many of you advised me how difficult it is to go in, and I have to order 35 of 50 boxes, and I have to order box number 1, then copy it, then change the container number and submit it, then copy it and order box 3, and on and on. We fix that for you. You're going to be able to do that via the customer portal pretty soon, where you can either order boxes, multiple boxes from a transfer, or you could order multiple files from the same transfer. You can't do both at once. You have to order boxes or just files. But I'm going to show you some slides that will probably be very hard for you to see, but you can look them up on the presentation once we get it posted to archives.gov later and check it out. So that's a good thing. So let's talk about CMDM. Again, and I touched on this back in April, we're going through a big change in how we process disposal now. In the past, we used to do a full disposal review before we sent the notices out to you. We're changing that now. We're now doing an initial review using the power of Arcus to examine transfers that are due for disposal for the next quarter, and we are looking for things like mismatches with disposition authorities, disposition dates, missing pieces of data that give us warning signs that we can either fix before we decide to send you that notification, or we can simply bypass them and ignore them and say that's not an issue and still get these notifications out to you. Now, the nickname for this process, this initial Arcus research, is called the sieve. All of you know what a sieve is. It's one of those things with a screen on it that you dump your green beans in after you boil them, et cetera. So that's what the code name was. And of course, I took a little bit of exception to that because I'm a hockey goalie, and you don't dare call a hockey goalie a sieve. So I thought they were taking a little bit of a pot shot at me, but I guess not. So anyway, so the process continues. About 5 months before the disposal cycle itself, like for January, for example, about 5 months beforehand, we're going to run all these transfers that are due for disposal on January 1st through the sieve. It will give us a list of things that we need to pay attention to. We'll make corrections, we'll make decisions on those things, and then ultimately we will post those to you via the customer portal once we get on board with deploying CMDM later in the year. And I'm going to talk about the rollout schedule later. You will have the ability to review them once they're in the portal. You'll be able to review them. You'll be able to reassign them to secondary disposal approvers, or tertiary disposal approvers. And ultimately, it's really the flick of a switch of saying, yes, I concur, or no, I decline at this time, and then you have to provide the reasons why you're declining that particular disposal. Again, you can do it one by one, or you can do it in lots. It's a nice thing to have. After your concurrence, then we will go and perform the full disposal review, because we want to make absolutely positively sure that that transfer truly can be disposed of, because nothing is worse than an erroneous disposal, and we know that. So here's how the rollout schedule is going to work. And the way I'm presenting this is by disposal cycle, because as we know, October, January, April, and July 1st are disposal cycle dates, right? Okay. So here's what's going to happen. For the April 1st cycle, all of the notices across all the FRCs will have gone through this Arcus-born disposal review cycle, okay? The notices will be sent as is on or about January 1st for the April 1st cycle. Now, when I say we're sending the disposal notices as is, however you've been getting them in the past is how you're going to get them again. However, NARA and the Department of Labor and possibly the Navy, we haven't confirmed that yet, are going to test this in what we call our QA environment. And they're going to play with it. In fact, we have a meeting with that group next week to start talking about the pilot program and how we think it's going to work. So they're going to test it to make sure it works via the customer portal, but in a QA environment. Now for the July 1st cycle, again, all the notices now are going to start going through the sieve, as we call it, or the Arcus re-engineered review process. And again, those notices will be sent out to you on or about April 1st for the July cycle. But this time, the National Archives and the Department of Labor are going to process their disposal notices through the portal itself and really test the functionality of it. And we hope it all goes well. But here's the big one. For a year from now, for the October 1st cycle, if you're deployed on Arcus 2.0, you can sign up. And we'll give more information about that at the December BRIDG. You can sign up for disposal in the portal. Now, what that means is during late June, I'm going to get very busy, and I'm going to assign all the super administrators who said, yes, we want to do disposal in the portal. I'm going to assign those capabilities to those super administrators, and then they can farm those out to other users of the customer portal. But again, you must be deployed on Arcus 2.0. That's very important. And here's another important piece. You must agree that all disposal will be concurred or declined via the portal. We can't send notices, paper notices to this particular office, spreadsheets to that office, while another office approves or declines via the customer portal. It's all got to be done by the portal. That's an agreement. That's something you'll have to agree with. Again, I'm going to go back in the studio and create some more of my world-famous Arcus training videos on how the CMDM module works. And then on or about July 1st, you'll receive disposal, if you've signed up, you'll receive your disposal notices through the portal, and you can concur and decline as you see fit. How's that sound? Sound pretty good? All right. I know it's going to be kind of hard to see. I wanted to give you a couple of snapshots of what the CMDM looks like in the portal. As you can see up at the top left, you can approve, you can reassign, you can approve in lots. You have a reassignment in lots if you so choose. And then, of course, you have the agency-wide view to look at all disposal notices for your entire agency if you so choose. This is what a single approval looks like. We're going to provide for you all of the things that you need, that we think you need to make a conscientious decision on whether you should dispose of this transfer or not. For legacy transfers, we're going to attach the old typewritten with carbon paper SF-135 as an attachment so you can see it. If you provided us electronically with a box list, that will be available for you to look at as well. And then you simply have to look at all that information as you normally would, make a decision and say, yes, I concur with disposal, or no, I decline, and here's why not. All right. Next up, multi-volume reference request. Talked about it in general a few minutes ago. Same thing. You can either order multiple boxes from a transfer or multiple files from a transfer. You can't do both at the same time. But what it essentially does is when you create a reference request for multiple boxes or files, you choose the transfer number as you normally would, and then at the bottom of the screen, it presents to you the listings of all the boxes. And then what you do is put a check mark next to each box that you want to order, or we'll have a select all button or a deselect all button. You make your decisions, and then you process the reference request. And the nice thing is, it will generate an Arcus reference request transaction number, that famous ARR1 number, for each and every box or each and every file that you choose to order through multi-volume reference requests. Again, I'm going to create training videos fairly shortly for that, and we'll get you up and running, I hope, hopefully by January 1st, we'll have this available to you. I know it's something you've been waiting a long time for, and I hope to approve it. The one decision that we haven't made yet is whether or not we're going to assign this as a separate capability. For those of you in the room who are user administrators in Arcus 2.0, you know there's reference request 1, create, and then the 2 views in reference requests 2 and 3. I'm not sure if we're going to add this as a 4th capability or just give it out as an option when you go into reference request create, or you can have create single, or you can create multi-volume all in one shot. So I'm not sure what we're going to do with that yet, but we're going to talk about it pretty soon. Not much to show here on this slide, but as you can see with multi-volume reference requests, it's called create lot. You would click on it, and here's an example after I've selected a records transfer number, what the screen looks like. And then down at the bottom, now you can see your box listing. So now you can put check marks in those boxes and order however many boxes you want. If you need to order all 2,000 boxes from a records transfer, click select all and submit, and you're done. So that's multi-volume reference requests. So that's it. I'm sure we're going to have some other good things coming up in the portal. Again, I promise one of these days we'll get reports for you. For those of you that know me, by all means, please send me your suggestions for further portal enhancements to make the experience better. I hope one day that we'll have refiles and interfiles in the portal as well, where you can start to create an interfile list, which you then send to us, and then of course we'll connect the dots with the actual physical interfiles and or refiles with what you've proposed and submitted via the Arcus customer portal. So those are some more things down the line that I hope to see. What questions may I answer for you?
Hi, this is Cecilia Espinoza from EOR. I have a couple of questions. One on this multi-volume request issue. For those legacy transfers that didn't have the listing the way you did it, will you be generating that so that every transfer will come up with that? Or
Nice to see you, Cecilia. It's been a long time. Every transfer in Arcus, when we drill down on it, there's a list of assets. You know, box 1 through infinity. There's the asset number as well. That's kind of the license plate for a specific container. And that list will appear for you, as we saw right there, even for legacy transfers versus Arcus-born transfers. So yeah, if you have a 1967 transfer and you need to order 15 of 75 boxes, it'll look just like this, whether it's legacy or Arcus-born.
The other question that this raises for me is, once we submit our box lists electronically, they seem to disappear from our view on the other side.
Interesting.
So I'm wondering if there's any way you can check that so that,
Sure.
because one of the reasons I've really been encouraging and making sure my box lists are correct and attached electronically correctly is in case our system goes down, that we can still access the box list to your side, and it's disappearing once we're submitting them. So
One
if
of
you check
the
that.
things, we had an issue like that within the last year where somebody said, I can't see my attachments. And what it ended up being is they were they were only given agency-wide view. And attachments aren't available in agency-wide view, but they are in profile-specific view. At least that's my understanding. So that might be one cause of one culprit. But the next, any of you, if you ever run into that situation where you can't see your box list, which you've attached via the customer portal, Or you've sent to, don't forget, you can also send box listings to the Records Center, and they will attach them for you, even if it's an ancient legacy transfer that's been sitting on shelves for 35 years. We can do that for you if you so choose. But if you run into a situation where you can't see the attachments, that's the time to contact me, and I can take a look at it for you. Be happy to do it.
Hi, John. I'm Andrea from the Philadelphia Record Center.
Hello, Andrea.
Hi. I have a question about the disposal notices, and I was wondering if you could tell me, would the records officer or whoever has the authority to approve the disposals be able to share the view of that disposal notice with people out in the field? Oftentimes, they require some sort of concurrence from somebody out in the field before they'll approve the disposal notices.
Sure. Well, one of the nice things, and let me go back to that slide. Here. On the left, you'll see the reassign capability. So initially, from what I understand, all disposal notices are going to go to a single point of contact if you sign up for this to start. Later on, we'll start figuring out how we can farm them out to different entities. So they'll come into the initial person. That person, probably, let's say it's the super administrator, will also be able to give this disposal review capability to others who use the Arcus customer portal. So much like in records transfers where you can reassign approver from one person to another, you're going to be able to reassign a disposition or a disposal notice to another person who has this capability, and they're the ones that can click the yes or no if they so choose. And you can use the comments field similarly as you do with records transfers to say, I've reviewed this, I'm good with it, your turn. Reassign it to that person, and maybe that's the second link in the chain that will ultimately say, yes, I concur with that disposal.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And similarly with agency-wide view. So if you're given agency-wide view, you'll be able to see all disposal notices for the entire agency.
Hi, John. Maurice King, Department of
Maurice.
Navy Records Office. Hey, standing by. We want to help out with that.
I know. We're working
Really
on it.
excited about it. Hey, I guess to piggyback on what the young lady said here, in my particular instance, it's great that there will be a capability for it to come to me and then I pass it down, okay? But I would think when I send it to my echelon folks to get their concurrence, I want to do that first,
Okay.
and then I give final approval.
All right.
Because, sure I'm managing the overall program, but
Sure.
it's their particular record. NAVC, for example. Okay, I'd actually like to send it to them first for
Right.
concurrence, and then I final approval.
Which I think you could do. Now, I'm pretty good with workarounds, so once I start getting even more familiar with it, because I obviously have to really get familiar with it before I do the training videos, because I don't want to misguide anybody, but I think that what you'll be able to do, they might come into you first, Maurice. You assign them to the echelon person and say, please review this in the comments field and get back to me. What they will then do is look at it, they'll jot in comments, thumbs up, and then they'll reassign back to you, and then you can flip the switch for it. Something along those lines. I mean, there's going to be a myriad of, every agency has its own ways and means of doing things, and it's always been hard for us to build a system that will satisfy every single need that every single agency wants to have, but hopefully with some of the workarounds that I can think up, we'll be able to satisfy that requirement for you.
Hi, John. Allen Tui, Secret Service. Will the old legacy notifications be in the system, ones that have not been answered on?
Yes.
For the
You mean for
disposal
for
portal?
disposal?
Right, and,
Oh, yeah.
and they'll have the inventory listings and everything with those
Well,
notifications.
we may not have the inventory listings if one wasn't given.
Well, that's,
But
yeah,
certainly the
that's
old
a given. Yeah,
original
you're correct,
135
yes.
from a 1972 transfer, that will be
Right.
attached, absolutely.
Excellent. And will there be a drop dead date for us to go on that portal for disposal portal?
No,
Okay.
nope, not as far as I know.
Okay,
Not
thank
right
you.
now. I mean, well, I shouldn't say no, but for the foreseeable future, no. Eventually, yeah, we want everybody to just use the portal, please. But such a deadline hasn't been set yet. Good question. How about in the internet world?
We do have one question through the YouTube chat. It's from Mark Hamilton with the African Development Foundation. He says, ADF is a micro-agency with only a few holdings that are expiring quickly. Do we fall off your list if we have no holdings?
Say again, do they?
He says, do we fall off your list if they have no holdings? So,
Well, I had one agency like that, and when I was going through gauging what agencies were going to be level 1 or level 2, slightly more complex, or level 3. And I came across one agency where through Arcus, I discovered there weren't any holdings, so there was really no reason to deploy Arcus. So for that particular agency, for your particular agency, if you feel that the transfers are going to expire and be disposed and you don't foresee any further holdings, I guess there's no need for you to deploy Arcus because there won't be any need for it for you. But that's completely up to you. I can certainly get you deployed and up and running on it, and away you go until you're. But you know, please reconsider. Send us your holdings. We want them. Okay.
yeah, there's no follow-up, but he does also say, P.S., thank you for the in-house training. It's appreciated.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. Anybody else? Did I see a hand raised? No? All right. Well, again, my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me today. Turn it back over to Don.
Okay, thank you, John. Happy to welcome up our next speaker, Gary Ralphus, the director of our Records Management Training Program. He's going to give an update on records management training. So let's welcome up Gary Ralphus.
Good morning, everyone. I feel like I get to talk to you once or twice a year to let you know what we're doing and hopefully get feedback throughout the year from you on how we can better meet your needs for training. So I wanted to start out this morning by kind of letting you know where are we at on this future model that we have for thinking about how we're going to do the certificates of federal records management training. So I presented this to you last year. We've started our work here. I will tell you it's gone a little slower than we had anticipated. And you'll see the reason for that coming up in the next slide. But so we are still viable with this 3-tiered model that we'll be moving to down the road. We have done all of the task analysis work last year. And then this past fall, we spent time trying to organize that and figure out really what belongs where, how do we build this structure so that there really is a sense to what's at each level and they connect together. So we've got a pretty good working model of what performance tasks go with each level. That is evolving as we dig deeper. So we've spent this past year also working on the individual task analysis for tasks at the first level. And when I say that, I mean, what are the steps to actually perform these things? So we say in level 1, when a task might be conduct an inventory, well, how does somebody actually begin that and go about doing it, right? So we've done that work with your help. Our folks in many cases have been talking to records custodians or liaisons or records officers to have that expertise. Because one of the things we want to do is not only take the expertise inside NARA as we craft these how-tos, but also understand how do you do this within the environment in your agencies. And try to come up with a single way that is a good starting point, regardless of a particular agency practice or the size of an agency, so that when folks come to the training down the road, they'll leave with a set of steps that says, you know, you might have to alter this a little bit for how you do your business, but generally this is step-by-step how you do this particular task. So for the first level, we've done most of those. In doing that work, we identified some gaps in our tasks. So we had to go back and rework some things and add a few things in so that it really fits together as a whole. And then we have also started doing some lesson design work for that level. Our goal for this year in 17 is to try to build the prototype of that course, run a pilot, and hopefully have that ready to go for the next year. We're also going to try to start doing the analysis for level 2. Again, we'll see how our workload goes and how our staffing works for the year and make sure that we can do that. To be quite frank, the problem we've run into in making faster progress is this. My slide goes. In FY14, we trained about 4,000 people. FY15, it was 4,900. And that 6,000 actually has turned out to be As of yesterday, the count was 6,203 people we trained last year. So the folks that we had planned on doing more of this work on the new curriculum have obviously been busy with folks from your agencies delivering training this year, and that will remain our priority. As we work through this revision, we are not going to try to cut back on what we're delivering for training for your agencies. So as you see a need or you contact us and say, we need more training, we need you to come directly do it for us, we're going to continue to try to make that our priority and do everything we can to deliver that training, even if that slows down some of the overall revision of the curriculum. Another big change for 16, in 15 we did, I think, 49 or 50 classes that were requested by agencies. Clearly you see that's doubled. And I appreciate that as a success story for you all. If we can come to you, put the training in the right place at the right time for the right people, rather than the folks having to come to where we're offering training, I think it's a win-win. So I'd encourage you and the folks in your agencies that did that this year, as you see continued need in the future, do not hesitate to pick up the phone, send us an email, and say, wait a second, rather than us send people to College Park or someplace else in the country where you're offering training, can you come to us? We will do everything we can to try to make that happen. This past summer, it got pretty dicey for what we thought was just going to be July, and then it turned out to be pretty much from June to September. There were several days where every one of our trainers was out training someplace. So we want to make sure that we can continue to manage that for you, make the training available when and where your folks need it in a way that makes sense both for you and for us to manage our workload. We've also done some work this year on some e-learning packages, which you see in the pictures there. On our learning management website, ahead of the login, so anyone can get to it, we still have training available for the capstone verification form. So again, if that's something that you still have not submitted to NARA, you've got folks working on it, that is available there for you at no cost. So again, trying to make sure that you have the information you need to get your forms into your appraisal archivist and get prepared for the email deadline coming up. We also did a pilot of the sustainable formats and permanent electronic records course. I see a couple of faces in the audience that helped us out with that, so I appreciate your help. We anticipate finishing revisions based on our lessons learned from that pilot this fall, and that course should be rolling out, we believe, in January or February next year. We have it on the schedule for January. We're going to talk about another transition we're going through, another slide that might affect the calendar a little bit. We'll see how it goes. That will be a completely online, so 100% online, 100% asynchronous. So there's no need for a person to be in a particular place at a particular time doing the course. And it's a model that we think will be pretty successful for folks that need to learn more about that, but don't necessarily want to be able to sit in a classroom on a particular day and get it done. And then we've also continued doing e-learning work for agencies. So we've done work for CFPB again this year to work on a set of training for their senior officials. We've also supported the Documenting Your Public Service website for NARA. So as we get into the presidential transition, another reminder that there are tools available online. So that website that NARA holds has a checklist on it, has kind of a one-page information sheet for those senior agency officials. And it's also got a short video that we produced. Again, all of those are resources that we've tried to make available for you to execute training within your agency with those folks and do it in a way that works for you. Certainly we recognize for that audience, time span and attention is difficult to get. So we've tried to make all those fairly short, succinct, to where you can take 10 or 15 minutes with those folks that are either coming in or going out, remind them of their responsibilities around records management, and then make sure they understand where they need to get more detailed help if they have questions. So pretty succinct in what we're doing there. So where are we going this year? Yeah. Let's see if we can get back here. So we continue to try to take our best guess every year at where do you all need training. So this gives you a general idea of what we have planned for the fiscal year. Some of this is based, again, on our historical data that we have that tells us, where is there a large enough federal population that there's normally an audience that needs training. And then we will continue to add through this throughout the year. So a location that actually isn't depicted on here, we started training in Baltimore today for Social Security Administration that contacted us last month and said, can you come to us rather than us coming here? So again, if you have a nexus of people in a particular place, by all means, let us know. We've also already started conversations with the Department of Commerce to potentially offer some classes in one of their facilities in Alexandria. And that model is something I also wanted to make you all aware of because I think it gets forgotten. So, generally for us to come to you, I need to see somewhere between 10 or 15 students to make it viable for us to send a trainer out to you. However, we've also been doing a little bit more this last year of an agency saying, well, I've really only got 2 or 3 people, and we'd be willing to host the training and make it open to other federal agencies to send their folks. So even if you think, well, I don't have enough people to make sense for you to come do training for us, if you have a place and you want to host it and you have that smaller number of people, and other folks from other agencies sign up for training at that location, then it becomes a perfect situation for both you to get what you need and other folks in that geographic location to get training close by to them. So we're happy to make that available to you. Again, we'll do everything we can to work out an agreement that says, how do we get the right training at the right place for the right people? Again, those are a number of models that we can do. If you want to host it, let us know. We're happy to work that out with you, even here in the DC area, right? Because that's one of the things that I've heard a number of times this past year is that even coming to College Park for some employees is a challenge, right? So if you have a particular employee that has a special need that needs to be accommodated and can only be done at your agency and can host the training, well, that's a way to get the training for that person. And generally, my assumption is going to be from what I hear from our students is if they could attend their training somewhere in the DC area, Northern Virginia, rather than coming to College Park, there's a lot of people that would be more convenient for anyhow. So there's a number of ways that we can work with you to figure out how to get you training at your location in a way that makes sense for you, and then it becomes cost effective for us to make sure that we can cover the cost of training for our trainers.
Got a question?
Absolutely, sir.
Good morning. I'm Dwayne Jones from VBA. And based upon the information that you depicted on the previous slide as far as those locations, would NARA be amenable to be able to do something similar as far as coming to a location, but also base it upon time zones? And what I mean by that is because of the fact that we have facilities that are throughout the nation, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, things of that nature. But would the forum need to be a face-to-face type deal, or would you be amenable as well to do a virtual opportunity to be able to capture those individuals within that specific time zone?
Absolutely, great question. Thank you for that. So one of the things we're doing this week with Social Security is we have a few of our folks that are connecting via link to their training facility. It's not a model that we have a lot of experience with. We do a little bit of this occasionally. Our courses are not really set up to do that as well as we would like. So we look at those on a case-by-case basis. In terms of the face-to-face training, which is what most of our classes are, if the concern really is, can we alter what the training day looks like to account for people in being different time zones, we're happy to work with you and figure out what does that mean for you and try to make it work. Our online class is pretty easy. If we're going to deliver something completely online, we have already configured that way. We can definitely look at what's the right time of day to get to the right place around the world, not just in the U.S., to make sure people can attend that training. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So again, sustainable formats should be coming out in January. And it was a perfect question because one of the things we're going to do this year is the Basic Records Operations course and the Vital Business Information course. We already offer 100% online. Those are configured into 4 web conferencing sessions, 90 minutes a week, over the course of 4 weeks. So we've scheduled one of these in February at, I believe our Eastern time zone is like 1 a.m. Essentially what we've heard from some of our folks, particularly in the Department of Defense, is that you have folks overseas that could benefit from the training, but we never offer it during their workday. So we tried to look at what time for us would make it available potentially both at a reasonable time in the Pacific and in Europe. We hope we've stumbled upon that, but we'll see how this goes. And one of our trainers was kind enough to sign up and say, yeah, I'd be willing to do this in the middle of the night to make training available to those audiences. So again, for your agencies, if you have people overseas in kind of the extreme time zones compared to the US, that's at least in our initial attempt to try to figure out, is this something that makes sense for you? Please continue to get that feedback to me about what do you need if there are folks in those regions, right? A couple of years ago in the Pacific, we had trainers go both to Japan and Korea based on a need there. But it's pretty obvious that over time, you're not going to have a large body of people sometimes in those areas, but you still need to have a few people that need to get trained. Right now, this is our best mechanism to do that. As we get the entire curriculum redesigned and make more things available online, hopefully we'll be able to put the majority of our courses available online in a way that you have an option to get that training regardless of where you are in the world and what time zone you're in. But again, we'll be looking for your feedback this year to see, does this make sense for you? Does it work well? And also, if you have those folks overseas, to get the word out to them. You know, because this will be one of those things where if you don't look at our calendar carefully, it's going to go right by you, and you may not actually recognize that, well, wait a second, they're offering training at a time that actually fits my normal workday, even though it looks on our calendar like it's strange because it's often going to show up in East Coast time. We'll also be doing a new evaluation form for the courses this year. So one of our projects last year is we had a small team that really stepped back and looked at some research that's come out fairly recently on how can we get better feedback from our students in a way that helps us do better improvements to the courses over time. So we'll be running a pilot of that here this month, and then once that form goes through the process for OMB approval, we anticipate rolling that out hopefully early next calendar year across all of our courses. Again, our goal with that is really to say, your students come to us expecting great training. We want to make sure that the feedback we are getting is meaningful enough that we then know what to change. We last year, prior to that, we spent 6 months looking at 3 years worth of our data from course evaluations. And although we found some things in there that we could act on, a lot of the data was so conflicting that we recognized that what we were getting was not going to help us make the courses better in the long run. So we tried to go back to some recent research that's come out and say, how can we help the students do a better job telling us the right things so that we can then make the courses better? And then hopefully that will work out better for us in the long run. And then probably the most important thing coming in the near future for you all is we are going to transition to a new learning management system. The timeline for that is very much up in the air, but I can tell you it's going to be fairly soon. So we have a new vendor on board and are working through the configuration of the new system. And as we do that, we're trying to nail down the timelines for cutting over from our current learning management system to the new one. The transition of that is going to require in some way, I think, some disruption of service to you all. We're trying to look at what is the minimum that we can do with that. But I'll tell you, the folks that do the great customer service on our end, getting your students into classes, processing those payments, changing their classes when they have a need to change an enrollment, all that work, they're the same people that need to learn a brand new system. So in the near term, immediately, I can tell you there's going to be a delay in folks getting the big certificate of federal records management training. If people complete it in October or November, we are probably not going to process any reports on that till December. It's one of the things that we had to look at is how do we free up training time for the staff to actually learn the new system so that when it goes live, they're able to provide that great customer service still, not be wondering how do I actually use this system. So we've delayed that. I think there may be a point where you also see some reduced customer service where we're slower in responding to you. Initially, we've carved out a couple hours a day right now where we're trying to bring all of our administrative staff together that does this work and say, let's not respond to customers for a couple hours, let's train on the new system. And we'll see how that goes and how it plays out. But in many cases, I know your folks in your agencies have almost gotten used to the point where they'll send an email and expect a response sometimes in minutes or within a few hours. And you know, we're going to do our best to keep that to a day, a couple of days, making sure we get back to you in the long run. But there are going to be periods where it may feel like, wait a second, I'm not getting that response as quick as I got used to, because our folks have gotten really good at, and sometimes turning around responses in minutes or very quickly. So look for that. If it becomes a disruption to you, I would tell you, contact me directly. Let me know, because I want to make sure that we're trying to balance the need here with the continuation of providing you great service, but also making sure that we don't stress our staff to the point where, you know, they can't feel good about providing service and trying to learn a new system at the same time. So I'll worry about trying to keep those balanced, and if it becomes a problem for you all, send me a note, let me know what you're not getting, so that I can look at what we're doing and rebalance how we're managing our time through there. So again, a couple links here for you in case you need more information on training program. We also we didn't do a lot of new YouTube videos last year, just a few. We'll continue to work on that. It's another thing we'll be transitioning this year and looking at how we do those and how we make sure that we're purposeful in getting good information posted there for you. So with that, any questions that you have about training, what we're doing, where we're going, or in general? I might get off easy today. Anything online, Shannon?
One question. For the for the new levels of training, if you've already completed the records management certification, do you have to go through those levels of training?
Absolutely. So the question is, if you have already completed the Certificate of Federal Records Management training, how is that going to play out when we institute the new 3-level system, right? Will you be grandfathered in a particular place? Will you have to go through it all? That is yet to be determined. So one of the things we started looking at this past year, when we laid out the tasks and looked at our current KA structure, KAs 2 through 4 absolutely fit at the second level of this new curriculum. That's where the work is being done. We know. 5 and 6 lean more towards the top tier. That risk management and program management is more likely done at the top tier by records officers. So we're trying to step back and say, what does that really mean for trying to look at where we are today versus where we're going to be? And what are the options that we're going to have to look at how we get people that have the certificate into the new program? One of the other things that will be coming with that is there will be a renewal requirement of the certificate when we roll these out. So, you know, one of the things we are thinking about is, do we need to even worry about it initially, or do we just say everybody that's got an existing certificate, here's the level you're going to be at, and 3 years from now when we would issue a renewal for that being 3 years old, that's where you then hit and need to do something. And what that something is going to be is also very much up in the air. Could be there's some refresher course, it might just be a test, it might be something like many professional organizations do with an equivalency of activities that are proven to show you've kept your knowledge up to date. So all those are options on the table that we're continuing to think about and then look at what makes sense for what we can feasibly manage on our end and provide you as many options about how that's going to happen so that you can choose the option that works best for you. Shannon, do we have one online?
Well, we had Lynette Crosby at CMS ask for the specific URL to the documenting your public service link. Is it up there?
It is not.
It is
so
not.
Bear
So-
with me. Let me go find it because I
Right.
do not know it.
Honestly, the easiest way to pull it up is to just Google documenting your public service NARA, and it's the very first hit when it comes up.
If it doesn't come up quickly, we'll leave it at that for today. But let's see. So yep,
Top
if you
line.
just Google documenting your public service, it will show as the first return. And now the URL is pretty long.
Right.
So I think you're going to probably be in better shape to just Google it. Or if you want to just send me a note, I'll be happy to send you the link directly. But again, on here you'll find a number of things. So the video is embedded there. If you have a need for that video directly too, you can send me a note. We can find a way to get that if you need to use it outside of your system. Or I know in some cases agencies have restrictions on their websites that sometimes block videos. And then there's also a set of resources at the bottom of the page here with the checklists and some other items that will help you through the transition. So any other questions on training? All right, well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Gary. Welcome up our final speaker, Matt Idson, and Matt is going to talk about the 2017 annual move. So let's welcome up Matt Idson. Matt, welcome.
Hi, I'm back again to talk about the 2017 annual move. This time, I promise to make it interesting. This is July launch by Al Warden. Blast off, fast off, sky clear, launch here, speed up, straight up, lights flash, controls thrash, vibrations, palpitations, a fragile link, just here to think, this wasn't intended, becoming extended. Stop, stop, stages drop, on we soar, engines roar, smoother ride, vacuum outside, horizon in view, launch phase is through. Thank you. A little bit different. So on October 1st, I had the pleasure of celebrating two major milestones in my life. The first was my retirement from the Army Reserves, and the second was the successful load of over 8,000 transfers for the 2017 annual move in ERA. Work actually began on the 2017 annual move on October of 2015, when our process started by looking at the upcoming legacy disposition authorities and ensuring they were entered into ERA. As far as I'm concerned, though, the majority of the work happened in the last couple of months. The creation of draft TRs in ERA represents the accumulation of a tremendous amount of effort and a too-long coordination between agency services, research services, and many other components within the National Archives. Each year, records to move are identified and corresponding record schedules are entered or verified in ERA so that transfer requests can be created and linked to the appropriate schedules. Appropriate information about record schedules also gets updated in Arcus from ERA. Once this is done, agencies, archival units, and FRC staff review Arcus data and the records to confirm the accuracy of the Arcus data. Each year, transfer data is extracted from Arcus for validation, mapping, and transformation into the proper base authority standards. And data is put into a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is used to transform data into ERA base, transfer requests, and loaded into ERA. But it gets worse. What I'll show you on the next slide is just a quick look behind the scenes of what it takes to make this happen. And it's October, so I want to show you something really scary, okay? Okay, so this crazy map is basically how the data about the annual move moves around through our various systems within NARA. And as you can see, most of the dashed lines are a manual process. Hopefully that wasn't too scary. So why am I telling you all this? And it's because I want you to understand the level of complexity and effort it takes to get this data loaded into ERA. And if nothing else, I acutely realize that there's a level of complexity on your side as well to get into the system, to find your transfers, to get them submitted amongst everything else that needs to be done. But I think it's worth doing, and I want to tell you why. Our mission at NARA is to provide public access to federal government records in our custody and control. Public access to government records strengthens democracy, allowing Americans to claim their rights of citizenship, hold their government accountable, and understand their history so that they can participate more effectively in their government. This mission cannot be accomplished without your help. Our ability to preserve permanent records that are valuable to our nation starts with you and your work as records professionals throughout the federal government. So I just want to take this moment and thank you for that work. What I think is lost in translation, and when we generally speak about the process of the annual move, is any relationship to real records. So I didn't intend on reading the astronaut Al Worden's poem as an analogy of how difficult it is to load records into this data into ERA. I read it because it's a real record from the 2017 annual move. It's a promotional film of him reading some of his poetry. It's going to be part of a transfer from the NASA Ames research facility in California that, fingers crossed, we're going to accession this coming spring. And this year I was able to comb through some of the data looking for a few nuggets to tell you about, such as transfer from the Peace Corps, historical files from the 1990s celebrating their 30th anniversary, or from the Agriculture Service documenting bilateral agreements between the United States and the government of the Russian Federation for the Russian Food Aid Program. A transfer from the National Park Service dating from the 1980s, a Culture and Natural Resource Management Program for the planning records of the Appalachian Trail. Foreign Claims Settlements Commission of the U.S., documenting Vietnam conflict, civilian internee, and POW claims files. A transfer consisting of computations of gravity meter surveys with a date range of January 1884 to December 1967. A 1970 space NASA film devoted to the study of developing a space colony. Photographs from the Bureau of Mines dating back to 1918. Film scripts from the Defense Information Agency from the 1950s. So this year we were able to load 8,473 transfers requests, which represents 87,000 cubic feet of records for 165 agencies. An armed communication was sent on October the 4th to notify agencies that they can start reviewing and taking the next steps in ERA to propose the transfers by December the 1st, 2016, so that the permanent records can be moved in spring of 2017. Now, last year, only 74 agencies participated in the annual move, and we only proposed 45% of draft TRs. So I'm asking this year for your assistance in getting the word out throughout the next couple of months to help us increase the agency participation among your agencies and others to ensure the eligible permanent records are transferred on time. All right, so here are some pointers about the annual move. We talked about participating. One thing that's come up that you probably will run into, and I mean this is because many of our users only go into ERA like once a year for the annual move or for creating record schedules. So you might find that your user ID has expired. The ERA help desk sends out a list of reauthorizations to account managers, but when there's no responses from the account managers, a user account is suspended. So if your account is suspended, if you try to log into ERA, you find out your account is suspended. This happened recently, and so this could be your situation. Please contact your agency account manager for ERA, who can contact NARA and verify you reactivate your account. So you've not been deleted, you're just temporarily suspended. Another piece of advice is don't wait until November 30th to sign all your TRs, because that's a very compressed time. I wouldn't want to do that. But it's a reminder, anything proposed after the deadline can still move in 2017, and we do a later move in the year. So if you don't make the deadline, you can still progress, continue to approve. In the memo that came out, the records management memo. It's published on our website, our memos homepage. It has a number of attachments. And this year, I didn't schedule any webinars or training. What we're going to do is reuse the training from last year. This is all explained in the memo. And so the webinar is posted on ERA's homepage. And the tool that I'm providing, that I provided in the memo, is kind of like a table of contents to that webinar. So the webinar is 2 hours long. And what if you need to use the specific parts for the training, you can find them from the table of contents. And you hyperlink in that memo to take you straight to that part of the video. So we're enhancing the use of the webinar that we used last year. The topic is around last year's annual move, but the instructions are the same if you need additional help. The best thing that you can use, though, when you're logging into ERA and wanting to sign your TRs is the ERA user guide. That's the step-by-step instructional manual that you'll want to use. Anyway, thanks for your time, and I hope to see many of our TRs being approved. All right, thanks.
All right, thank you, Matt. And thank you to all of our speakers. Actually, that's the wrong date, so we'll go back. This morning, I thought we had a good session. I noticed a few people came in a little bit after the fact, so I wanted just to, again, mention some notes that I shared earlier. Again, on November 17th, there'll be a NSA and CSS and NAR are presenting a presentation on NSA's capstone approach and approval of NSA's Form NA1005. And that event's going to be held right here in McGowan. And if you're interested in attending, there's still space available, so please contact Sean Curry at sean.curry@nara.gov. So we certainly welcome your participation in that event. Are there any questions for Matt before we conclude? Again, Matt will be here. There is one.
Matt, I'm new on the job, 3 months as far as over in Navy, and I have been poking around in ERA and so on. But we've had some transition. As far as the annual movement, take a look at where we are health-wise, with that kind of contact and get some assistance.
Yeah, I think. So new records officer within the Navy. Who do you contact to get more additional help? And actually, reach out to me. But the best way is for our email, which is annualmove@nara.gov, and we can certainly work through all the training and what you need. Give you some help to get through that. Navy's going to have a lot of transfers that we will need to look at.
Other questions for Matt?
So Don was just talking about the NSA meeting, and we've had a couple of questions online about that too. For anyone who wants to go back and reference the memo, it was our last one of 2016, so it's AC 40 2016. To check in your email, it went out September 29th. And Sean Curry's email is sean.curry@nara.gov.
Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate that. So again, there's that event. Also, once again, we'd welcome you to join us for the meet and greet with appraisal team 2 and 4 at 1 o'clock in the Jefferson room. So we're wrapping up a little bit early here, but you have time to go out and get lunch and come back and join us at 1 o'clock for the meet and greet. Again, there'll be representatives from NARA units and your FRC account rep. Our next bridge meeting will be December 14th. Shannon, what is our date for that? It's not August 16th, so. I believe it is December 13th will be our next bridge event, so we welcome you all back then. And with that, we'll adjourn this meeting, and everyone have a great afternoon. So thank you all for attending today.